any questions about the midterm, and I'll kind of go over like the basics. Anyone have any questions right off the bat? Okay.
When is the midterm again?
So the midterm opens tomorrow, I want to say. I think it's tomorrow, and it closes like the next.
It opens tomorrow.
Yeah, you have 7 days to do it. So you have like, it'll open Tuesday at like midnight, right? So it'll open in like a couple hours, in 6 hours or so, and then it'll be open all the way until I think next Tuesday at 11:59. It's whatever Learning Suite says. You'll just submit it to the same email that you submit your homework to. Make sure you copy yourself to make sure it actually emails. And that's a good way to check to make sure you actually emailed your file. Make sure you fill out the first page that says like your name and all that stuff. It makes it really easy for us. And put your email address, and then if you do that, then you'll actually get your response with your grade. The test will be in a similar format to this. This review, it's similar format, not similar questions, I guess. There will be similar questions, but they're going to be different. Unfortunately, and we won't be giving you like the actual step-by-step for the test. Anything that is on the class files or in the textbook technically is free game for this. So I hope that you all have done your class files along with the online. I don't know if any of you are in the online section, but there's a class file to go along that he works through, and in class, everyone follows along with that. If you haven't been doing those, I think now would be a good time to go back and do those, because there will be questions from those, and if you haven't done them, you're going to be searching through the videos because you're going to say, oh, I remember doing that, but you have a 3-hour time limit. Once you open it, you need to email it in within 3 hours. Like, you can click save and you have like 3 hours and 5 minutes. Like, just when it hits 3 hours, set a timer, close your exam. That's over. You need to submit it. You're on your honor. We can kind of look at the analytics of your spreadsheet. I usually don't, but you're BYU, so make sure you're following it. Also, Dr. Muservi was talking about adding like a timer thing to it, so that could have happened since last semester, since he's had a long time to work on this course. Any other questions before we get started? Yeah, right in the second row first.
So along with the timer, so will we download something and it will be step by step and then?
Yeah, so just like what I usually do is I like download, just once you open the workbook, that's when you start your time. So you can download onto your computer whenever, just don't open it. Once you open it, like your 3 hours starts. Okay.
I was going to ask if you can like do like an hour of it and then like come back to
No. So it needs to be done like a testing center exam. So like once you start it, you need to finish it. There's no breaks. If you need to take a break in the middle, like that's just out of your time. So you got a 3-hour time limit because it's open book, open note, open internet, whatever you can find. Use your textbook, use your class files, use your homeworks, close neighbor.
On average, like in the past, how long has it taken to complete the test?
This first test is usually on average about 2 hours and 40 minutes. Okay.
So I took the class last semester. To go through all of it took me about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I spent the last 45 minutes trying to figure out the ones I couldn't figure out. So it took me some time.
Yeah, so we recommend like if you struggle with conditional formatting, just skip the conditional formatting section, or if you struggle with charts, just do that last. You know, don't waste your time. Don't waste 30 minutes on one section because you really only have about 10, 15 minutes per sheet. So if that also helps, like you might want to set a timer on your phone that keeps resetting. You're staying on schedule, making sure you're actually answering all of your sheets because you really don't want to get behind on that. So, but also set a 3-hour timer so you know when it's over. Bring snacks. You know, you can do it at your house. Do it in the middle of the night. We don't care. Submit it when it's done. We always get people submitting it like 11:55 on the last day because you'll probably be really stressed. Okay, so I think without further ado, we're gonna do this. So I'm gonna go through all of these questions and I'm gonna talk about tactics, and also any questions, just like raise your hand. Skylar can like run up and help you, or like stop. Since we have such a small group, we probably should just like stop and answer your question. At least that's what I think. And then it'll be on the video and then everybody can reference this and we'll all be really good. Also, if I remember this correctly, I can zoom in really far, but you'll have to remind me. If you can't see, just let me know, because then I can never get out of this. There we go. Okay, so let me scroll in just a little bit more. Okay, so first of all, it says create a named range for each column and each row in the table to the left. So we learned this in the class. So we're going to want to just highlight this section of data so it'll be clearly shown on the exam if this question happens to be there, that you'll know that this is the region that we're going to be dealing with. So as you know, it says to the row of the table to the right, if we go to formulas and we click create from selection, so everybody sees that up there in formulas, create from selection. So we click on that and we're going to do, we want the top row to create a named range and a left column to create a named range. Click OK. We'll notice now on our drop down, we now have all these lovely named ranges. Was everyone able to do that? Okay. So the question right here is, what is the intercept? Let me zoom in a little bit farther. Okay, what is the intercept for the East region in July? So to do this, we can just type in the two different named ranges and it'll do the intercept. So if we do East, so we notice it's in yellow in the drop down, so we know it's a named range. When it highlights, just hit tab and it'll fill it out for you, hit space. And let's do July. And we know it's J-U-L, not July. If we scroll over, we can see there's an X there and it kind of X marks the spot, right? That's our intercept. So we're really going to find 403 there. Hit enter. And ta-da, we have 403. What are the total sales for the month of October? If we do equals sum and we put in October, then we'll notice that it's going to do sum of this named range here, October. Hit enter, 1341. I like, because I'm super paranoid when I take these tests, I'm like, did I even do that right? Did I make my name range right? So I usually go, okay, October, let's highlight this. Okay, I look down the bottom, okay, 1341. So that was right. So just, if you're paranoid like me, when you take tests like this, you might want to do that. So what is the second value in the south range? And all this stuff was covered in the class. So, but if you don't understand the formula or have never heard of it, let me know. So we're going to use the index formula here. So this will give us the second value. So our array is going to be the south range. So we'll put south in here. And we know it doesn't matter which direction we're going because we're just going to get the second value. So Excel will figure that out for us. So we'll just say number 2, hit enter, 285. So if we go over to south and we see the second value here is 285, the nice thing is if we change struggling today. My formula. Okay, so we can change it, you know, if we want to change it to 4 or something, just make sure you find the second value if it asks for the second. Okay, so this other one says we're going to create a named range called int rate and set it at 6%. So like Dr. Masurfi, this is kind of annoying. I can't see what I have here. Hang on. Let's hit save. Reopen this. Also, make sure you frequently save this steering while you're working on it. Let's reopen that. Can we? Oh, there we go. Now we can see what I'm doing. Okay, so you'll notice that he has the named range in there. That's why it says name, because it means this name does not exist. We're referring to something that doesn't actually exist yet. So we'll go to formulas, define name, and we're going to call it exactly like he named it here, interest rate. And we're just going to set it to a value here at 0.06%. Hit OK. And oh, ta-da, we now know that this is filling out. And that's usually your good indicator to know that you did that right, because if the answers start popping up, you know you put the thing in right. This one says create a name that adds 20 days today, call it today 20. So if you notice this is today 20, it has a name error, which means that it doesn't exist. So we'll go to name manager. And it doesn't say that it has to work in a specific cell, so we'll just do today plus 20, because we know that we learned in the date and time section that each one value in Excel is worth 1 day. So we'll hit OK. And I didn't do that right, did I? Today 20. Today plus 20. Okay. Close and oh, ta-da, 29th, that makes sense. That's 20 days from today. We'll want to make sure that we know how to do that for the test. Okay. What is the total for both the north and the south regions? So there's 2 different ways to do this. So because the north and the south are together, we can actually do, if you do the corners of intercepts, you can sum them together and it'll sum the whole thing for you. So let's do that. So let's do this. Sum of 4th January and South December. Hit enter, 632. Ooh, that does not seem right. What have I done wrong here? Maybe we just do it like this. Hang on. Whew. All the pressure, we should have 7148. Well, let's go to the answer key, I guess. Sum O. Sorry about this. Let's go back to where we were. So we'll go like this, put a colon, like that. 7149. We can also just do the sum of the north section plus the sum of the south section. That also gives us the same way. Let me just put this in here so you can see this. Oops. So they're equals formula text. Okay, so that gives you both options to do it. On the test, just make sure you're doing named ranges. When it asks for named ranges, don't go equals sum of all of this range right here. While it might work, it's not the right answer because we want to be using named ranges. So if you know that there's a way to do it. So if we want to sum January through May, we'll do the sum of January through May. Oh, my goodness. I'm really struggling with this today. Oh, it's the same as the other one. Oh, I'm so embarrassed, guys. I've only done this like 25 times. So we'll do January north. January north through May west. That gives us both of our intersections, and that kind of gives us a box. So we know it's going to sum everything in that range there. And we can do the same thing here. We can do, let's just do this to check it. We got the right answer. Okay, what's the average of sales in February? We'll do, huh? Yeah, let me put these on here.
Does that count as the way you did it?
No, I have it there just so I can check my answer.
You can do that on the test too.
Yeah, that's a good point. So make sure just the highlighted cells, like your formula needs to go there. But if you want to write like 18 formulas off to the side, or if you want to write your little note, we're never going to read it. So like add whatever you want. Just don't add whatever you do not insert columns or delete rows or delete columns, because that will throw off the grader. And you'll get your score of like 31 and you'll be really sad. And then we'll have to regrade it by hand. And it just that shell shock of the score coming back to you. So so this one we'll do average average sales of February. So we'll put February there. It's 303. So we'll highlight February. And down in the bottom corner, we can see that average is also 303. So that's why I like to do, just to like, did I actually do my formula right? Like, I know how to do this, but why don't you also do it like the other 8 ways you know how to do it in Excel to check it? Because, we won't know. What's the maximum of sales in January? If we do the max formula and we put in Jan, then we hit 450. And in January, we see, okay, the maximum number is 450. And the nice thing about that is if we change this to 600 or something, it'll change. Don't change your data. Usually that won't affect the grader, but it has happened that something you've changed. Probably how the grader is going to check it is it's going to throw in like some new data here, and it's going to check your answers. And if your answers actually work correctly, then we'll know you put the right formulas in. So that's a good way that we check to see a lot of your work that we do. Yeah.
I think you skipped a question.
Number 7, yeah, it was.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Oh, this is the fan favorite too, because you'll definitely need there. I'm gonna say there's about a 90% chance there'll be a question like this on the test. I have not seen this version of the test, but there always is one like this. So let me just let you know. So when we see these formulas that say create a named cell called CTR that refers to the cell to the right of it. So we always want to make sure, let's start, just as a rule of thumb, let's start exactly where we are, okay? Because we want to make sure that we're using the correct references. You can start wherever, but you have to make sure you follow the same pattern, okay? Because we could start here. We just have to make sure when we do our formula, we're going to refer to this cell because we're going to go one cell to the right. If we wanted to do 2 cells over, we do the same thing, just relative referencing, okay? That might not make a lot of sense, but we'll do it right here. So we'll define the name. You have to do it this way, and we'll call it CTR. And you'll notice it says refers to right here. So right now it's saying it refers to H19. It's locked in there. These dollar signs mean that like absolutely has to be H19. Also it says name, so it absolutely has to be on the name sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this relative, and Excel will figure this out for us. So we'll take out the dollar signs, but we'll click on the cell right next to it. Oops, that's probably a better way to do it. We'll just hit equals here. We'll click on the cell next to it. Now it says I-19. But I want to remove the dollar signs because it's saying, okay, we're setting it up in H19, but relative with no dollar signs, I-19, which is one cell to the right. That's how Excel thinks of it. It says, oh, I-19 is just one cell to the right of me. And in Excel, you can even set your formulas into what's called R1C1 format. And it's literally, instead of letters, they're just saying go over one row, go down one row, go over one column, up one column, things like that. If we want it to work on any other so right now, the way this is set up, this formula, this will only work on this sheet. To get it to work on any other sheet, who knows what we need to do? We need to get rid of the name. Do we get rid of the exclamation point? No. If you get rid of the exclamation point, it's not going to work, I don't think. It shouldn't work. So if I delete that, it's going to say like it worked, but so let's put this here, 90. So this was, okay, that looks right. But if I go over here and I say, here's 100, and I want to do equal CTR, they must have fixed that in this version of Excel. So your version, that did not work prior, so that should not work. So it looks like, if you notice, oh, it still says names, K9. Let's go way over here. Let's see if it works way over here. 300 CTR. Okay, didn't work. Thank goodness. So we tested it on another sheet. It didn't work. And we're like, oh, crap, what do I do? Well, okay, don't panic. Let's go back into our name manager. So we go back to formulas up at the top. We click on name manager. And we go back to CTR. And we're like, oh, right. Because Logan said take off the name here. We'll just leave the exclamation point. And then we'll just click this little checkbox. And we'll go back, oh, look, it looks like it's working, right? So it's doing magic things for us because it said it's going to be equal to the cell to the right of it. Yeah.
So if we didn't take out the names thing, would we get that one wrong?
So possibly, depending on the rubric, usually he'll give you like some points because you'll get like it'll work on one sheet, but then you'll get like a point for working it on another sheet. So all you have to do is remove the names and you'll lose a point. And so every point is a percentage off the exam. So just try and follow the things. Usually we give partial points, but it's an automatic rubric. So you can't bank on that you'll get partial points. So sometimes it'll be all or nothing. And usually it'll tell you like, this is worth 1 point or 2 points on the exam. Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is this doesn't refer to, it doesn't say to just do it with the names tab, right?
Right. So this one doesn't specify. On the exam, it'll say like, and I think in the homework, like it said, this also has to work on any sheet. And typically that's usually on the exam too, because that just takes like it a step further to see if you actually know. So you want to make sure you remove that. If not, like it'll work on this sheet, but it just doesn't work on your other sheets. Okay.
So remove names, leave the exclamation point.
Leave the exclamation point. That's the only, like honestly, in my mind, it doesn't make sense that it's there. So, but you take it off. Yeah. It just says this will work on any sheet. So if you leave it on saying, I'll refer to the cell of the right, but on the names sheet only. So even though I could be on another sheet in this exact spot, I could have a different number here, but it's going to go back to the cell right on the name sheet. So it does kind of like a weird thing. You may need to do that someday in your career.
Pretty much if it's a exclamation point and there's no name in front of it, that means the whole workbook.
Yeah. So it'll work on any of your sheets in your workbook. Any other questions about names before we move on? Okay. Date, time. Okay. So one thing, what's the difference between static date and a dynamic date? Static date does not change. So there are so basically hard code your date in. There's a shortcut to do that. So I would just do the shortcut. Or there's like 9 ways to do this. So like you could literally just type in 10/9/2017, 6:22 p.m. and Excel will just figure that out, that it's actually a date for you. Because if you actually go back to your home and we were to go like this and I put it back, oh, well, it didn't like that date. If I put this to PM, capitals, let's try this. Yeah, see, there we go. See now how it knows it's a date. So, but if you want to be sure about it, if you do control semicolon, it does the date. If you do a space and you do control shift semicolon, it does the time. And that just hard codes what it is from your computer. Hit enter. You don't have to worry about it. It does it exactly right. You didn't mess something up. You not look at it. When I see these formats, what I always do is I just go like this. I go in here and I just hover over these. I control C. I go here. I go to my custom format. And I just paste it in here. And just hit OK. And we don't have enough space there, so I just double clicked. So the reason we do that is because we're going to test you to see if you know what a static date is. And we're also going to test you to see if you can format it right. So if you leave out one of these M's, for example, on this, if I take one of these M's out, is it going to change the date? You guys know? No, it won't, because it's a 10, right? Will you miss it on the exam? You'll get 0 points. You'll miss the whole points for that. So make sure you just copy and paste them. We don't want you to miss that. This one says add a dynamic date in the cell to the right. Format it as DDMYY. So for this one, we can use 2 different formulas. We can use the now formula or the today formula. Because the reason why is so the now formula gives us the date and the time. The today formula just gives us the date. But since this one only looks for the day, it's not going to care. So what Dr. Mercerbi is going to do is he's going to refresh your sheet. And he's going to check to see if you have the current date as his computer. And if you do, then you'll get your points. And if you don't, then you don't. So we'll just do now. Sounds a little bit easier. We'll go back here. Let me copy and paste this format here. And we'll go to custom on more formats. And, oops. And I will just paste that in there. And voila, there's my date and time. It's perfectly right. Okay, so this one, it says add 15 hours to the time to the right. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to click on this. And I could do two different ways. So if we remember, whole numbers in Excel are like days. So 15 hours is what portion of a day? Well, I'm not very good at my fractions. So I just let Excel do the math for me. And I go like this, 15 over 24. And we'll add it like that. Oh no, it gave me like this weird time. Okay, well, it didn't care about what format I did it in, so I'll just click on time here, and it looks like 9:30 p.m. Is that 15 hours from now? Yeah, from 6:30 in the morning. So if we add 15 hours to that, so that ends up being 9:30 p.m., which is something we want to make sure that's right. We could also go like this. We can go like this, and we can do this plus, and there's a function called hour. Actually, that's not really like the best way to do that. So make sure you just do it this way. This is going to be a lot simpler. And let me put these on here for you guys.
There are other ways of doing things. Is it okay, like if you do it cells plus like in quotes 15:00?
Does that work?
That's what I did.
Did it work? Did you get the right time?
Yeah, but with that.
It should be right, because probably all he's going to look at is he's going to say, okay, you should have this, like, there should be a formula, right? We don't care what formula you use. If there's like a random formula or you did some weird math or something, like you panicked, you didn't know how to do it, you looked online and the first solution was like this crazy long formula, but it worked. Let's just go with it, you know? we're on date time, and we know that date time, we're looking at, do we have the right date time, and also do we have the right format? So we'll want to make sure that we have that correct. Yeah.
So when I did my now function,
Mhm.
they gave me the date and time. How do you just reformat that?
So you'll want to go here. So this one is just in day, month, year. So I just copied this, like I highlighted that, and I changed it right here. So if I put this back to long date, for example, like this shows the full date. Whoa, that's not even what I wanted to show you. Let's go like this. Custom. So like this has the time as well, but this one says, the format says we are only putting in day, month, year. So within custom, we click on more formats and we go here, we click paste, click OK, and ta-da, it's just 9/10/2017, which I'm like, wait a second, it's not September 10th, but it's day, month, year. So common to a lot. Yeah.
Another really simple way that I've been like number 3 is you can just add a time function. You can just add hours, minutes, and seconds to whatever.
That's probably what I was trying to do, but then I got nervous. So that's right. So you can actually just hard code in these values. That's a good point. So you want to just put those in. You could just put 15 there, minutes, or you could do 15 times 60 in the minute section, and it'll do the magic for you. Since these are optional, you can just hit that. I think even if you close this, I think it'll work, but it says too few arguments. So I'll just put in, oops, comma, doesn't care that they're blank, and 9:30. So thanks very much for that. Okay, so this one is interesting because we're going to do a time card. So there's probably going to be a time card on your midterm. I know everybody hates time card. The book has like a horribly long example of how to do it. Like it's a really long if statement. But the beautiful thing about this is we can just do, use the mod formula. So we'll take the mod of, I'm going to take the whole time, like start to finish, and then I'm going to subtract out their lunch. Does that make sense? So we'll do G15 minus 8 a.m. and we just put divisor 1, and this is just how we know how to do this. And then we'll subtract out the 1 hour for lunch. We want to make sure this does this correctly. Comma 1. And we'll hit OK. And this says 7 a.m. Well, it's really just 7 hours. So we'll want to make sure, if you're worried about it, it doesn't say anything about formatting on this one. I'm just going to take off the AM, PM. And so let's see, if I worked 8 to 4, that's 8 hours minus a 1 hour lunch. Okay, that's 7 o'clock. That looks right. So let's scroll down here. I just pulled these down, so I just grabbed onto here and copied them down. Let me put this out here for you. Formula text. In case anyone's curious there. And then we want to sum these, so I'm just going to put this one's equal to this. This one is equal to this, plus this guy here. And then we'll copy these down. And we'll notice, oh my gosh, 345, that doesn't make sense. But the reason is because our formatting is weird. So if we highlight all of these, go back to our custom format, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a bracket around the H. So what this does is it says, the problem with this is every 24 hours, Excel's just like, well, you're just starting over a new day. It's a clock. If it's a clock, we're just going over 24 hours. So like, I'm just going to start back over at 7. This bracket says, nope, just keep summing it all together for you. So I've hit OK. Oh, 3145. That's exactly what I wanted. The nice thing about Excel is, just in case on your exam, I don't know, it could ask you, oh, give me the minutes. And if I put the minutes here, sorry, let me put minutes like this. 420 minutes. Or it comes to 1905 minutes. Well, how many hours is 1905 divided by 60 minutes? Oh my gosh, what's going on here? Let me just go back to here, general. 31.75. So we can double check that if we're like really worried about it. The exam might ask you to put it in minutes, right? Or it might ask you just to put it in hours, right? So just kind of keep an eye on what's showing up on the exam. Okay. So we'll go down here. Add 1 year to the following date using a formula. Use date to account for leap year. So some people might go, okay, well, why don't I just add 365 days, because there's 365 days in a year, right? I'll take this plus 365. And you're like, wait a second, that's not the right date. Well, that's really dumb. So just in case, we're going to use this better formula called the date formula. and we're going to hard code things. So we know that we want to do one more year past the year of this, what's in this cell right here. So what we'll do is we'll use the year function, and we'll go here. So what this is going to do is it's going to give us just 2020, because that's all it's going to put in there. 2020, comma. Oh, but we want to add 1 year, right? Comma, the month. We'll put in the month here. And then we'll put in the day as well. Hit enter, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's the right answer. And I think if we just go like this, and we add, same thing, date, 1 year. Well, I would have thought that would have worked, but apparently I was thinking that would work the same way as the time function, but apparently not. So make sure you check your work. So if it says add a year or add 2 years, like go online and be like, add 1 year to Google to this date, and Google will just tell you what the answer is, and make sure you got the same answer in Excel. So you get the points for it. So this one is, okay, we're going to add 4 minutes and 24 seconds to the time to the right. So we're going to do this. We're going to say this plus time, hour. Sorry, we're not doing any hours, so I'll just put 0 there. Wait, no, that was right. 4 hours. 4 minutes. Wow, I am like 4 minutes, 24 seconds. We'll close that up, and it looks like 5:24. That looks like the right time. This one also says use basic arithmetic. So on the test, you might be like, hey, you can't use the time function. Oh my gosh, what do I do? I go on Google because I don't know what to do, right? That's what I would probably do because I'd be so panicked. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have time, right? So instead we'll do this. Okay, so 4 minutes is what part of a day? Okay, let's do our great old math. So if we do 4, it goes into 60 minutes out of 24, right? Because that's how much of a day that we're adding. That's how many minutes. And then it's going to be the same for seconds, except for it's going to be like an extra 60, 24. Close that up. And give us this weird funky number because, oh my goodness. Let's put it back to time. And oh, look, we got the same answer. But we did a crazy, crazy math function there. So just kind of keep an eye. Oh, whoa, I almost missed this. There's actually a format here. Better copy and paste this because this one's just ridiculous. So just click more. I don't even want to deal with this because what if I miss one of my seconds? Let's just paste it in there. Oh, thank goodness I did that because if you notice, there's like 0.24 milliseconds on there just on the end. So we would have gotten that wrong. These are going to be the same. So I'm just going to do Format Painter and it gives us the same answer there. Okay.
Just a question.
Yeah.
On the, so on 5, where it's use date to account for the leap year.
Mm-hmm.
So it wants, what it meant to say is it wanted it to be the 4th. The answer is the 4th of the next year,
Yeah. So the idea is you want it to be at the same date.
regardless of the
Yeah.
leap year. That would like probably.
Because we're saying add 1 year, we still want it to be January 4th. This was made by TAs, so the test will be pretty like explicit as to what we're doing. So, and actually I just realized we missed that there was a format on here. So let's just do that really quickly. We'll copy and paste this on here. More for number formats, custom, paste that on there. And it's a weird number format, but we're just testing to see if you know how to do it. Okay, sum the following hours in the following without multiplying values. Okay. So let's do this again. We'll do sum of all these. Okay, 16 hours doesn't seem right. If I highlight this, this comes to 112. That seems possibly closer, right? I don't know. Let's just put these in here just because we're not sure, right? We want to make sure this comes to the right time. 11:08. What does the time add up to here? 64. So we should have 64 hours here. So it goes back to the, okay, we've got to go back into our hours. Let's put a bracket around the H. Let's add the minute. That is really interesting, which means 112 hours. Nobody has ever caught that. It's the wrong answer. It's wrong because I just put the hours in here just so I could get it to sum correctly. It's 64. Well, that's
Is
embarrassing.
it because is it treating it as like military time, like the 14's like 2 o'clock?
That's possible. Oh, there's a 56. Just kidding. I need to learn how to do math. Okay, I was right.
56 change when you.
Oh, so do you notice that this one probably has, oh, that's tricky. Let's just put this like this. That's tricky. Watch out for things like that on the exam. The test has been, just kidding. What am I saying? The test will not have things like that in there. Dr. Maservi has gone through it, and also like 8,000 students who have probably, and just so you know, he also, like, if everybody misses a problem, he'll, like, when he's writing the grader, he'll just go and change the rubric and change everyone's score. But that all happens before you see it. So you're just like, oh, like, I know I did this problem right. And if he notices that everyone's missing it, he'll look and be like, oh, this is a poorly worded question. So most questions are really well written that, like, you either get it or you miss it. And, like, you'll just miss random questions because of time or whatever.
How do you format it again so you get 64?
So if I go back into more number formats, we put a bracket around the H. So you notice how there's like square brackets around the H. So that just makes it so it actually will continue going on. Otherwise, it just says out of 24. And it's like 64 is, well, if I take 24, what's the remainder? 48, and then ends up being, it was like 16, I think. So we'll click OK. This one says show the hours, minutes, and seconds in the following value, in the following way. That looks like it's already in the right format to me. But we'll just do it anyway. We'll put this like this, but maybe we'll just take off. Oh, it doesn't have AM, PM. So we're going to get a little trickier with this one. Let's go like this. Hour, hour, minute, minute, second, second. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
24 milliseconds. If you're just wanting 24 seconds on 5 or 6, what was it?
Number 6.
You format it to milliseconds. Why is it 24 then 24 milliseconds?
Because it says to show the milliseconds here. Do you notice right here it says show milliseconds? So when I formatted it, that time is just in there. Because it was a predefined date. This date that looks like it's 4:56 actually has,
It had 24 milliseconds.
yeah, so if we change this also to that same format, so if we go like this, second, millisecond, you'll notice that there's,
5, 6.
because then we add some time to it. So it's interesting. Well, okay.
Can you
Anyways.
just review one more?
Yeah.
Can you review the formula for like adding up the weekly hours?
So this one right here, all I did for this formula here,
Yeah.
all I did was this first one I just said it was equal to this, but this one I just said it's equal to the first one plus the one next to it, and then I copied it down. Does that make sense? And also there's a solutions online, and it has all the formulas and hopefully all the bugs worked out. Gosh, there's still, this is like the 8th time I've done this in front of a live audience, and we're still finding issues. Can you imagine how the teacher feels? Okay.
So I have another question.
Yeah, yeah.
Previous,
Mhm.
Can you describe just really simply what the mod function does? What does mod mean?
So I would love to explain why it makes sense in this situation, but I actually don't know why. So what mod really does is it says, well, I'll tell you what the mod formula is out of this context, because I don't really know what it's doing in this situation. I just know that this works for time, because what it's doing is it's saying take the difference between these two, and we know that hours are just portions of a day, and it's going to give us the remainder 1. And so that's saying divide everything by 1, and I think that makes it into a whole number. At least that's what I think is happening. We can see what's happening in this formula, but with the mod, okay, let me give you a better example. So if I do 24, for example, and I do mod, so here's our number. If I want to divide this by 7, this is going to give me my remainder. So set 24 divided by 7 is 21, but it has a remainder 3. So maybe let's change this to a better example of 25. So unless it has 4. So 7 doesn't go into this 4 times, but it actually has it divides it by 7, and whatever's left over, it gives you that. I had a wonderful TA who knew what this meant. He explained it to me, and it was like in ear, one ear out the other ear when I was taking this class. So I wish that I knew better. But we could actually click on here. We'll click formulas. I'll click evaluate formula on here. If we evaluate, so 0.66, that's the time, minus 0.33. So if we take 0.33 mod 1, that gives us 0.33 apparently. And 0.54 minus that gives us that, and apparently gives us 7. So let's just go with it. That's a horror. I feel like such a.
I feel like with the mod, like you only really need to know that when you're dealing with time, you use the mod, because if any other time you're going to be using the mod is exactly how I showed it at first, right? You're looking for the remainder.
And this, yeah, in this
Like
class,
when people have come in the TA hours and asking me like, why does it work like this? I'm like,
it
you
does.
don't even need to know why.
God made it that
Just
way.
know it works like
That's
that.
how it is, right? Okay, so Dobja Dobja Panya Bobsha, right? So okay, so so this one's gonna be fun. So this one says import GDP history from this website. So depending on our versions of Excel, which I'm sure somebody has a different version, yours is gonna run different than mine. If you worry about it, just go to this website, copy the table, paste it in your Excel. Yes, you can. We will not know. The computer cannot tell. So you're lucky you're here. If you have issues with this, if you're taking this on your Mac and it doesn't work, just do that. So we'll do it both ways just to make sure that we know how to do it. So I'll do it the hard way, which, like I said, this could totally not work because they're always changing things on this, especially with this new version of Microsoft 365. So I'm going to click on this lovely button. And look, they've even moved it. It's now right here out front. It used to be in here. So yours might be in this list here, but we're going to do from the web. And I didn't even copy the website. So you'll want to do that before you click on that button, because now I've got my Excel crashes and I've lost my work, right? Okay. I know, it was a really, really emotional. Okay, let's go like this. We'll copy that from web. Does anyone's look different from this?
I'd like wanted me to sign in or something like that.
Really? Okay, well, like I said, just go to this website. We'll do this way. Let's click OK. So it says import the GDP history. If there's any issues, email me during the exam with this problem. Because every once in a while, because everybody tries to go to this website. One semester, a few semesters ago, it crashed for like 3 minutes. And so everyone was like, I cannot do this. But it was only for those like 3 minutes. Because I was like, I got on home, I was it was literally 2 in the morning. And I was getting emails from students. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I opened it up and I'm like, it worked on my computer. And I said, try it again. They're like, oh my gosh, it worked again. So like, just take a breather, move on. And as you can see, this like takes forever. And it used to look totally different. Like I said, we won't know. Just make sure you paste it into K1. Oh, okay, it finally came up. Oh, wow, I don't even know like which one it is. So, okay, it's probably not document. Let's see, table 0, that looks like nothing. Oh, this one looks like the right one. So let's click load. And I didn't even say where I wanted to go, so I might be trying to put it right where I just... Wow. Is anyone successful?
It pasted over everything. Or no, you made a new one.
Okay. Oh, it made a new sheet. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you just a second. Oh, wow. This is really different than what it used to do. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to highlight all of this. Highlight it all. Control X. Since it said it has to go in K1, go and plop it in there. Okay. Was everyone able to do that?
I went online and copied and pasted it.
And it was just that easy, wasn't it? But if you like want to be really slick and do it this way. Okay. Who is not with us? Because I want to make sure we're all together before we move on.
Yeah, so you like said.
Are you two there? Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, since I can't see anything that's going on over here, I'm just going to make this smaller because I want to be able to see the data. So it says, first of all, delete the $billion nominal column. So it says delete this column. Okay, I can do that. Just delete it. Create a line chart from the data. Well, since this one's in a table, we can just click design and we can click, oh, what am I saying? No, you can't. we're just going to click insert, and it says to create a line chart. So I'm just going to click on here, or I can just click on this recommended chart because I don't know what I want to do yet. It says we want to do a line chart. So it says it's a line chart. So I probably just want to do just a line. Let's click OK. But I know this is not going to work out very well. So because it took in this extra column, I'm actually just going to highlight this data that I want, like this. And let's also delete this first column here. Actually, let's put it up here as the title. That makes sense. I'm also going to delete this blank. And then I'm going to right click here. I'm going to delete this row. If you copied it from the internet, you're not even having to worry about any of this. So we're going to go here and we're going to go to insert again. Let's click recommended charts, line graph. Okay, so it still isn't liking that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all this. Oh, because it's probably trying to pull in this bottom line here and it's blowing up my graph. So let's grab just the data. Click recommended charts, line graph. Oh, this is going to be so much fun, guys, because I'm going to show you how to fix this. Yours may have worked. Mine did not. Did anybody's just work beautifully and it looks like a nice graph? No? Okay, good. It used to work just fine, but now this is really rough. Okay, so I'm going to click select data here. So the problem that we have here is, so the chart data range, it looks like it's selecting the right data, but it's doing things wrong for us. So we want to, our legend entries, which are series, right? So which would those be? That's going to be our actual values that we're putting in. So I'm going to click add. I'm going to click on this year, first of all, because that's the name. We want it to look nice. And the series value, I'm going to clear all these out. And if I hover over this nicely, it'll highlight all those. Let's click OK. Let's see if that looks better. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere. Let's go back to select data. Okay, I'm going to delete this whole thing because it's just a mess. Okay, I'm going to add this series name, GDP. Click OK. Click add, population. Oh, Excel doesn't like you to make any mistakes. Dealing with charts. Click OK. Looks like we're still having an
You
issue.
still have the data at the bottom of the
What did I do
the
wrong?
table, remember? The
Oh.
question at the bottom.
That's a good point. So yeah,
Delete that.
let's delete this row because it's like there's text and numbers all in one thing. Something's wrong. Let's delete that. And we still did something wrong because I did not put my date in the right axis. Let's go back to select data. So this is going to be in the horizontal axis. Well, looks like we're getting somewhere here. Let's remove the year here. Something is wrong. Anyone's chart look better than this?
I got mine.
Yours worked beautifully, right?
Well, it's like 3 lines.
No, that's perfect. That's what I want.
That's what you want.
Mine's almost there. So we've got an issue here. Something's wrong with my axis, I'm pretty sure. So let's go here.
Mine looked like how yours is before, though. Like on the bottom, it has like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11.
Oh, okay. So let's go here. Let's right click here. Let's hit format axis. Okay. So the problem that we're having right now is that this is only going 0 to 1, but we know that this is like humongous. Let's put this to like 2000, see if that gives us a better. Wow, this is lovely. Select data. Okay, let's do it the other way. This is something that I hate about charts. This is like my least favorite thing about Excel.
Do it this way.
I'm going to show you the other way to do this, and this should work, hopefully. Wow, I'm sounding so confident, and I probably look like a fool. Okay, so let's go to the website, because I think this will work better. So we know that there's some data here. Oh, see this lovely table? And I guarantee you on the test, there'll be something like this lovely table that Dr. Mercervi has found. So let's copy it. Let's only copy the table. We'll go back to our exam. I'm going to throw it way down here because we don't want it to be anywhere in the mess. Let's watch this. So it said first delete this column, right? Delete that. Okay, so I'm just going to click on here, and I'm going to say insert, recommended chart. This is a much easier way to do this.
Do it
So
this way.
this is way better way to do it. We did not have these issues before. You could import it, and it did. This is what it looked like. This is what I'm excited. Is this what you have?
Yeah.
This is exactly where we want to be. Okay, let's click OK.
Question, how do you do that again? Just with the normal way, just copy and paste?
Just copy.
I just went to the website. Yeah, did you get that? I just
You'll
went to the
do
website, copied
you'll
it.
do Way faster, and it's just better.
It's guaranteed to work usually, and you'll know. And if the site's down, just like go to another sheet, come back. Okay, because that means like 80 people are working on it because it's 11:59 and everybody wants to get some points for this. Okay, so we notice the problem here. These are both on the same axis. So what I usually do is I just click right on here on this first axis, and usually it'll, if you click right on the axis, it says, oh, do you want this on the primary or the secondary axis? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a secondary axis. You go, oh wow, because now it gives me two different axes, right? So now the blue, the blue is going to this axis and the orange is going to that axis. Okay.
Can you do that one more time?
Yeah. Okay, so my chart looks like this. I clicked right on the line, and I clicked on the secondary axis.
How do you get that format data series to pop up? Like if it doesn't pop up.
Good question. Okay, so I clicked on this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, nothing came up. I right-click, and I click Format Data Series, and you're like, oh my gosh, I still can't find it. But if you notice, they all have this drop-down, so just make sure you're on one of the series. Click on the little chart like this, put on the secondary axis. Obviously, that one doesn't look great, so there we go.
Is that the instructions you can just how to do that?
Well, now that we've hidden our instructions,
Oh, yeah.
okay, we're just gonna delete that chart because it's so horrible. It says format the chart so the population is on the secondary axis. Okay, give the chart a dynamic title that reflects whatever's in cell K1. So in K1, it's supposed to say, like, it'll say what's supposed to be there. Let's pretend it says, oh, I'm gonna move this chart. Let's just say it's in L93 for me. So if I go to my chart title and I click in the, like in the formula bar, and I do equals, and make sure you click. If you type in the formula, it will not work. If you type in the cell name, it will not work. Does that make sense? So if I, so it says, so I know that's going to be in, for example, L93. This will not work. Okay, because it says we need to have a dynamic title. So just click equals, and wherever it says to go, and you'll notice it puts a nice formula for us. Ta-da! It says $1 billion nominal. Now if I want to say this is Logan's bank account, right? Then now our title says Logan's bank account, and you can watch it. Okay. The next question is, it might say like you need to do something, format the chart so it looks nice or looks pretty. I'm sure you all are familiar with that. Everyone's lost sleep over it. So sorry. When we say pretty, just like do a bunch of stuff to it so it doesn't, and it can't be like one of these, like if you do this one, we're gonna know you just used the one that was in Excel. So yeah, so like I'm like, oh my gosh, this needs to be like this color, and this one should be, let's do green, and oh, and it should have a gradient, right? So I want to have like multiple colors in here. So let's change this to blue. Let's change this one to red. So now I've got like this little American flag going, and because I think that's really pretty. And anyway, so, oh, I didn't like how these were looking. So let's see what we can do about these tick marks. Let's see, labels. Start messing around with stuff because I don't like how anything looks. Okay, does anyone have any questions on how to do anything to a chart?
So when I plotted mine plotted the date on the graph.
Okay, it did. Okay, let me see if I can get mine to do that so we can show everyone how to fix that. So my guess is, oh, actually I can guarantee you when you hover, when you click onto your chart, see what colors show up on here. So you'll notice this is doing your x-axis, the purple. The data is going to be the blue, and then the titles are the red. Are you able to resize these? So if I were to go like this and I added, it's probably not going to let me do it.
Try it the other way.
Oh, that's a good point. Let's try going like this. So, I just lost some of my data because Excel couldn't figure it out. Were you able to resize it?
I can resize it, like all of my data is blue and then just the titles.
Oh.
You can just delete it.
No. Here, I'll show you how. I know how to fix that one.
Like you click on the one.
So if we go back to design, select data, you'll notice that in your horizontal, you're just not missing anything. You don't have anything there. So if I delete this, you'll notice now I shouldn't have any year, or I still do. Wow. This is not letting me. Interesting. Okay, there we go. So I got my, is this how yours looks like this?
Not max. I don't. This is a little different.
Do you have select data?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. When I
So click on select data and just do edit horizontal axis and make it the year. It doesn't matter which one you do because I think it'll override what you're doing.
Let's see.
Oh,
horizontal.
ah.
Right
So
here.
now you would put in.
Were you able to get that? Do you change both of the axes?
So the year's there, but then the year's still.
Yeah, delete.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, ooh, everybody's on the same page. Okay. Any other questions about charting? We'll move on. So when it says make pretty, just do like 5 things to it. Change the font, change the color, change the bold, make the line bigger, make it a dashed line because you think that would make more sense. It's going to pop up on Dr. Mashabi's screen. He's going to see this and be like, dang, that is a really patriotic chart. And that is going to get full points because I'm really patriotic as well. Or he's going to be like, wow, they just used one that was default. Or, yeah. So.
It's like orange and all paper.
I haven't heard of him doing that before, but it's going to be pretty clear if you didn't do anything to your chart. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we'll do conditional formatting. So, okay. So this one, so we're just going to be applying all of our data to this. So it says in quarter 1, highlight the top 4 cells with green. So what I always do is I first highlight what I'm going to do. And I always look to see if there's a preset before I start looking online because I'm like, I don't know how to do a top 4. I just look in the presets because chances are there's going to be at least 2 of the questions probably are going to be from the presets. So like, don't start writing your own formula. You can do it, but I don't recommend it because we can do top. And it says top 4 items with green. So I click on this and I'm like, oh no, this is red though. Oh, look at that green fill, dark background. Ta-da. Okay, quarter 1, highlight the bottom 2 cells with red. So I'm still doing the same thing. Bottom 2. Wow, bottom 10. There we go. Change this to 2. And it says red. Oh, it's already set up for us. So we did our double check on our little math here. Okay, those are the bottom 2. They're actually highlighted right. In quarter 2, add data bars. So we don't care what kind of data bars you add. So find data bar. I'm really liking magenta right now, so we'll put it in magenta. It's pretty cute there. In quarter 3, highlight any cell that has an amount divisible by 2. How in the heck do we do that? Right? Okay, there are 2 ways to do this. It's actually going to be useful. We have 2 options. We can use our mod formula or we can use the even function. What do you want to use? Both? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so what I usually like to do is if I'm doing a formula, I like to put it in this cell right here, just off to the side, just so I can test it out. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say even. Oh, I have this lovely thing, but it's actually, we're going to use the is even function. And it's going to return true or false whether or not the number's even. Okay? So you notice how it says false. Okay, 111, we know that. We learned that that's wrong. Okay, see how these all say true or false all the way down? The beautiful thing is now, because this is the top, I'm going to highlight like this. Whoops. First, I'm going to highlight the formula. Hang on. Let's do this. formula text like this, so you can see what the formula is. Okay. I'm going to highlight all this. I'm going to do conditional formatting, and I'm going to say new rule, and I'm going to use the formula, and I'm going to type exactly what is in this first formula here, because everything is relative when we're looking at it at conditional formatting. So we want it to look at the top. We're going to go down each one of these, and it's going to move down each one, and it's going to apply this formula to each formula, to each cell. So we're going to say is even. Oops, equals is even. K4. And we'll change this to, oh, I don't know, like this. I think it said exactly how to do this, but just because I can't see it. Oh, wow, that's really bad. Wow, that's going to look bad too. Okay, let's try that. Okay, that looks okay. Oh, okay, that worked, right? Beautiful. What if we want to highlight, so depending on this column, what if we want to highlight both of these rows? Oh, this is where it gets more interesting, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to go in here and I'm going to click on my conditional formatting. I'm going to say manage rules. And I'm going to change this selection to this worksheet so I can see all my rules that I have. And I'm going to say, okay, now I want to look at a different selection. Let's change this selection to this. Ooh. Let's change this over to L. And then we're going to edit our formula. So the thing is we want, so as we're in K4, we want it to apply to the whole column. So we only want it to look at K4. So I'm going to do an absolute to column K. So no matter where it moves through our conditional formatting, it's going to stay on row K. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this lovely little dollar sign here. Cute, I know. And then we'll click on that and oh, ta-da! Even though this number isn't even, but now if we change any of these numbers to even, it highlights the whole row to purple. Okay, does anyone have any questions on that?
Quick question, what
Yeah.
is actually the dollar?
So the dollar, so like I said, so the dollar means absolute. So you know when you copy the cell over, it never moves out of column K. And that's what conditional formatting is doing. It's going, okay, I'm going to start in the top, and I'm going to do this cell, 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 and it's checking to see if this formula is true as I'm copying it down. Now it moves over. Well, because I have a dollar sign, it's staying in this column. It's not even looking at that column. If I wanted to look at this column too, and we only want to highlight the evens in this whole section, let's go to conditional formatting, manage rules. Let's do this worksheet. We'll hit edit. Then we'll take the dollar sign out and we'll hit apply and ta-da. Now we have it only applying in the evens because it's now moving relative to every single cell in the column. Because sometimes you want it based on a certain column. What if we want it based on the other side? Column L. But starting with what? No, that's right though. So let's go like this. So based on not K4, but we're actually going to move over and say based off of L4. So anything in L, we're going to do the whole row. Okay. So even though the topmost left corner is K4, we're going to do it like this, L4. And now let's test this again, 170 here. Oh, there you go. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah.
I'm just not getting how it's working. Why isn't it just working on L or just on K?
So it's because of how we've put in our formulas in this conditional formatting. So in our formula, we have this absolute on L. So what conditional formatting does, so I have this highlighted section, right? We know that this is the selection that the conditional formatting is applying to.
Oh, so it's because it's highlighted.
Because that's what our section is. If I were to move this section over, it would be like all skiwampus. So you could do it kind of like offset. I don't know why you would, but you could. In the solutions, I did like 7 examples. They're like crazy, weird examples. I don't know why you would do it. Maybe you want it to be, if the cell below you is even, like you can do all that stuff. It's not gonna be that complex on the test, but it's for your reference, okay? Is that making a little more sense? Yeah. So you might want to, yeah, on my thing, and I kind of walk through some steps. So like when you're doing conditional formatting, like, are we applying it to the whole row or are we applying it just to the column? So like, for example, if I wanted to say, if it hits an even cell in this column, I want to apply it to the whole column. So how do you think we would do that? Bueller? Oh. What we'll do, yeah, so if it finds something in row 4, it's going to apply it to the whole selection, okay? So let's do this, hit apply. So now it doesn't care what these are, right? But if this one goes to 157, because of the way we have it set up. So you can be really weird with conditional formatting. Nothing in this test is going to be too complicated. It's going to be a lot of click and drag, and there's going to be one that's going to be like semi-difficult. If you don't know how to do it, just skip it, right? It might be worth 1 or 2 points. Come back to it. Don't waste time on it. Make sure you get your points on other things. The average on the test is usually like in the 80s. So if that's any consolation, this is our first time doing the online semester. So it's hard to say. It could be higher, it could be lower. We don't know. So on quarter 4, let's add an icon set. So let's highlight this and let's go to icon set. And it doesn't say what kind, so I'm going to do these stop signs because I like those a lot. And that didn't go to where I want it to do, so let's go here and let's click more rules. So it says add an icon set, follow these rules. Red when it's less than 150, yellow when it's less than or equal to 275, or green when it's greater than 275. Beware, beware, beware that these say percent. Usually default. Change it to number because that's usually what it's going to be. It might be in percent, but just keep an eye on that. So you'll notice that you can change these. You want this to match exactly. So I usually put the first number in. I'm like, does this look right? When 275. No, that doesn't look right. Let's put these other numbers in. Let's put 150 in here. Okay. So we notice that when it's less than 150, that looks right. 275. Oh, this one's not right. Let's change the symbol here. Nope, that's not what I wanted to change because that changed the wrong answer. Let's change this one. You don't have a lot of options, right? So just kind of play around with it till you get exactly what it shows on the assignment. We'll click OK, and we'll notice if it's less than 150, it's red. So 100. So if I go to 150, it should change. Yep, or 100. You can always check a few just to make sure you did it right before you move on. Does anyone have any other questions about conditional formatting? No? Okay, our favorite, databases. It's my favorite, at least. Okay, who feels confident about databases, the database formulas? Okay, that's usually what everybody feels like before they start doing this. Okay, so we want to make sure that we understand how to do this. Because there will be on the test, and it'll be probably like 10% or so of your grade of this exam. So you want to make sure, if this is going to take you the longest time, you know, put it towards the end, but you can only skip so many tabs before you have to actually start working on the test. Just keep that in mind, right? So you have 3 hours. Once you start it, you got to finish it in 3 hours. Whatever's not finished, just submit it. Okay, so using advanced filters. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways of how to do this. Okay. So you can use, there's going to be the database formula and also advanced filters. On the test, it may specify use advanced filters, but it doesn't say you can't check your answers using a database function. So just kind of keep that in mind, you know. Do what you can, even manually sort the data and filter it to see if you can check your answer, because you don't want to miss points on something that it doesn't really care if there's a formula in there anyway, right? Yes.
We just noticed with database, and we'll probably go through it, but it's just so nitpicky, like how we had to reference it and stuff on like the database. Like I tried to like name my table, and it didn't like it when I just referenced the table name. I had to like click and drag over certain things.
You shouldn't have to. We'll do that together. So this one is already named, so it's already named table 1, so we should be able to use that.
I tried table 1. Just try
So I'll show you how to do it because it's table 1 and you have to do something a little special. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to name this right here. It's criteria 1, just because I like to have that there. So how many teams have greater than 200 home runs? So let's go to home runs, greater than 200, greater than 2,400 total bases, and a batting average of at least 0.260. So we need greater than or equal to 0.26, right? So for advanced function or advanced filtering, I'm going to click on formulas, and we're going to do not that. We're going to click on data, and we're going to click on advanced. And the list range is going to be our table here. We can also go like this, table 1, but you have to do this bracket and do all like this. It's really picky. If you don't include the header row, the row that has the name of the columns, Excel has like no idea what you're doing because it has nothing to reference, because it's always going to look in that first column. Criteria range is going to be criteria 1, just because we've already named that. You can also highlight it. Did everybody get this answer? So it's asking me how many teams have 200. So I have, this answer is 1. Let's do it with a D count A. I'm going to use a D count A. My database is going to be table 1. And I'll put the bracket and I'll do all like this. And then I'm going to do the field that I'm looking at. It doesn't matter what field, just as long as you click on one of these columns, oops, in the table. And the criteria is going to be criteria 1. Close that out. And we also got 1. Anybody get something different?
For the first one, where does it show?
So we put it in advanced filter. So you can highlight this whole range here. So hang on, let me clear this filter. Oops. Ah.
Can you go back to that corner?
Yeah. So when I do advanced filter, I click advanced. The list range is going to be this entire table, including the header row. Okay. And then the criteria range is going to be where I have my criteria, including the name of what I'm filtering. Click OK.
And then you just manually.
And then I just manually did the count. This is a table already, so you'll notice that it has a totals row at the bottom. So I can do count on this bottom, and it does a subtotal. Because it's advanced filter, he's not going to be checking to see if you like there's no way for us to check that you actually ran an advanced filter because you just like ran one. But if it were me, I would probably just manually go and put a filter on here, click filter, be like, okay, let me add these different filters. Because it's an and situation, you can do that yourself. Where we actually have to use these formulas is when we do these ors down here. So maybe we'll do that. Let's do this other one. What is the average batting average for teams that have an OPS greater than 0.75? So let's name this range here to criteria 2, just because I think it's nice to have all your work so you don't lose it. So when you go back to the test, you can just reference your work here. And with advanced filter, we'll click on formulas. Oh my goodness, data, advanced formulas. The list range is going to be our table. Because this is a table, I can click in one cell, do Control A, and it should also do this table 1 all. Or if you're on a Mac, Command A.
You don't want the total row though, right?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Mm-mm. It'll figure it out for me because it's a subtotal row, so it actually won't add that into anything. The criteria range is going to be criteria 2. Or I can highlight criteria 2. I don't have to make a named range. Just makes it easier for me. And oh, that's a good point. I will need to add greater than 0.75. Okay, if I click on advanced, it's usually right where I did the last filter. So if you'll notice, I've lost my average. What is the batting average for teams that have an OPS greater than 0.75? So because it's a table, I click on design and see this total row is checked, but if I unclick it, click it again, this total row comes back for us. If I go to batting average, has a little drop down, and I can click average. I want to make sure when I copy this, I'm going to paste values. Because if I paste the formula, when I do my next filter, it's going to change your answer. So I want to make sure that we leave it the same. Does that make sense? Okay, now we'll do the D average. So you can see both ways how to do this. Oh, and I think somebody had a question about this, right? Let me put this up here. So we'll do, let me zoom in a little bit. Let's do D average. Our database is going to be our table 1, but we have to remember we have to do all because that makes it so it includes our headers. The field, oops, gotta make sure you do square brackets. The field on batting average, I always just go and I just click right on the column because if you notice, it puts all this gobbledygook headers, comma batting average. You remember the movie if you watched the recording or came to class, he types all this out by hand, and I'm like, that is just crazy when you can just click on it. Because everybody in the class has issues, and they're like, mine didn't work. I put a parenthesis or a bracket, it didn't work. And he's like, no, it's a double bracket, close your bracket, comma, bracket again. Like, it's a huge mess. Or you can just click, okay? So you can choose how you want to do it. The criteria is going to be criteria 2. We'll close that out. And somebody made a mistake because I called this table. And you'll notice it wasn't highlighted. And oh, look at that. We got the same answer here. And now I have this lovely formula. So now the nice thing about these database formulas is, oh, I want to go add another criteria. Oh, they also have to have greater than 400. Oh, it just, apparently that didn't affect anything. Let's try greater than 2,800. Oh, there's nothing there. It's divided by 0. Let's try greater than 2,400. Oh, look at that. This number's changing because it's automatically changing because our criteria is in our formula. That's why I prefer database functions over anything, because who wants to just have a hard-coded number when it can be a formula? But on the test, when it says put your answer in there, just use your database formula if that's easier for you and just copy and paste your values. So on this one, I'm like, and let's put our answer back. This one, if I did the formula this way, but he said use advanced filters, I could check my answer this way, or I could do it this way. If I Control-C, I can paste my values. So now, guess what? These are the same answer, right? They look the same. So that's just a way for you. Do whatever way is easiest. Just make sure you follow the instructions. Okay.
When you reference it in advanced filtering, when you reference table, bracket, number, all. Is that going to grab the total row? It looks like it grabs the total row.
So it can grab the total row, but the way subtotals work, and you can look this up online, if you have a subtotal, anything that uses the subtotal function, and you try and sum something that has a subtotal in it, it actually just skips it. It doesn't even look at it. So when it's looking at your data, it's like, oh, because if you notice, all these functions down here have subtotal in them because they're a total row. So like if I change this to anything down here, it becomes a subtotal. It just says ignore it. It doesn't even think that. So the all just like it may highlight that whole area, but it's actually not going to look at it. Yes.
So when it says like using advanced filters and using the database, you're not actually putting formulas in here. You're just putting a number.
Only the advanced filter.
Only, yeah, exactly. So only on advanced filter. I was saying if on this question it said to use advanced filter, I could do it both ways just to check my answer. Or maybe I'm more comfortable using the database functions. Some people are. Some people like advanced filtering more. Or some people are like, wow, my database formula, I'm really scared I did this wrong. Let me quickly do it in the advanced filter, apply it, see if I get the same answer, you know? So make sure you're checking your work if you can. So we have some questions here. What are the difference between dsum, sum functions, and also subtotal? So the dsum, will always give us the sum of our data, whether or not it's filtered or anything. Like it doesn't care. If we use the sum function and we filter our sheet and we have columns missing, it's actually not going to add those columns that are hidden based on the formula. So like for example, on this right here, if I highlight this, it says 7, even though we know that there's all these columns in here that are missing, like 37 to 42 are just not added. But if I use a dsum, or even if I use subtotal, well, if I can get those answers. So you want to make sure that you're kind of aware of those. There won't be any free response on the test, so don't worry about that. Just a little fun fact. So what is the standard deviation of home runs for the teams that have an OPS greater than 75 and triples greater than 13, or have a team named Colorado? So first thing that I like to do is I like to think, okay, what goes together? So these first two things go together. So the OPS and the triples are going to go together. And then the or means we need to have another line on our database. If any of you used Microsoft Access before, to one at BYU, they teach you how to do that. So we're actually going to use 2 columns this time. So I'm going to highlight all of these because we have more than one criteria that we're going to use. I'm going to name this criteria 3. Okay. So what is the standard deviation of home runs for the teams that have an OPS greater than 0.75? 0.75. And triples greater than 13. Just want to make sure these are on the same line because they're together. Or have the team name Colorado. Okay. Oops, let's put it like that. So with advanced filtering, I'm going to put my thing here. I'm going to say data, advanced. My list range, even though this is filtered, it knows that it's all there because it's A31 to O61. My criteria range, I'm just going to type in criteria 3 because that's easier for me. Or I can highlight all of this right here. And you'll notice it still gives me criteria 3. But okay. And it wants the standard deviation of home runs. So if we go to home runs and we click on this little drop down, we can see standard deviation in there. And it gives us 19.2. Well, let's do Control C and paste what? How do I want to paste this? Paste values. Okay. So now let's put it in our function. So you'll notice if we start doing D and STO, standard deviation, there's two options. If it wants you to use something weird, it'll tell you exactly which version of the function to use. So the database is going to be table 1. We're going to do all. Field is going to be home run. So we're going to click right on there because we don't even want to worry about all those brackets. And the criteria is going to be criteria 3. And we hope and pray. Okay, they got the same answer. So looks like we did that right. Does anyone have any questions on database questions? Yeah.
Where do you, like, I feel like it's an option you click to have it so you can sum at the bottom of the table.
So yeah, so once you're in here, this table tools design, you can click on total row. If it's already checked, just double click it. Like sometimes it's checked and it doesn't show up. You can turn it on and turn it off. So that should turn that back on for you. Any other questions about databases? Okay, we got to fly. Okay, arrays, everyone's favorite formulas, right? This is like everyone's, no, just mine. Okay. Okay, so first of all, using the data to the right, use an array formula to find out how much profit our company would make from this sale. So I want to do our sale price minus our cost times the amount, and I want to do it on each row. It's just simple matrix math. I know we all took math 118 or matrix math at one point. Maybe not. That's what we're actually doing with arrays. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to do this equal our sale price minus our cost. And we want to make sure these arrays or these highlighted things are the exact same size because that's a property of arrays. But we don't really need to care about that because we just need to know how to do this, right? And we want to times it by each one of these. And if I hit enter, I get 60. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. And that's because it only did the last row. 16 minus 6, which is 10, times 6 is 60. All right, because I need to go in here and I need to Control-Shift-Enter because I'm on arrays. It also doesn't look like it's right. Right? We got a different answer. Sale price minus cost. Oh, right. Good point. We need to add a sum on there because what it's actually doing is it's going to go Control-Shift-Enter. So what it's going to do is it's going to do each column individually. If you're really curious about how these work, you can click on formulas. You can click on evaluate formula, and you'll notice it's going to put all those numbers in 5, 4, 4, 5. It does that math for you. It's going to put the other one in, and it times all those together, and now it's going to sum all of those amounts. So that's really what the array is doing. So it was doing this one minus this one times this one for each column, and we're going to sum each one up. Okay. Okay, name the range to the right, numbers. Yeah.
So doing some product without doing Control-Shift-Enter works, just since it's an array, you don't have to do.
Yes, some product is a great way to check your answer, but because we have to show that you know how to do arrays, so arrays came out like when Excel came out, but nobody knew how to use them. So they created some product. So what she's saying is, so you can do some product right here, and it's a non-array because it says, oh, just throw an array in here. So if I do the same thing, I think you can even just do it like this.
I think you have to have it on the regular feeds.
Oh, that is, hang on. I've got a little bit of a PEMDAS issue, right? There we go. Order of operations. That PEMDAS always kicking your, anyway. So that's something you really got to keep an eye on. So name this range numbers. Okay. Let's see, numbers. So we want to multiply them by 3. So we're going to highlight something that's the exact same size. We're going to highlight the whole thing, and we're going to say equals numbers times by 3. Control Shift Enter. It applies to all of our cells because it's the exact same size. Transpose numbers into the area below. This one's going to be equal transpose, and the array is going to be numbers. Enter, and voila, it rotates to fit something that's just on its side, transposing. Yes.
So even if we wanted to just do 2 columns, we wanted to sum them all up in an array, or yeah, 2 columns, would we have to do
Like you just want to sum this plus this?
yeah, would you have to do sum, then the array, and the other array?
Oops. Sum, you could just do this plus this. We should get the same answer, right? 104, yeah. Okay, does anyone have any questions about transposing?
What's the formula for transposing again?
Let me go like this, formula text. So I just did transpose, but I highlighted the whole thing at once. Okay. Okay, this is where it gets a little more complicated. Give a sum of profit for items that have a sale price of more than $15. Okay, so we already know how to do the sum of the profit, right? So I like to put everything in lots of parentheses. This minus this times this. And since we want to make sure that it's a price of more than $15, we can also times it by sale price again, where the sale price more than $15. Something's missing here. It's another parenthesis there. Okay, so it says $86. So let's see if we can figure that out. So we know that this one has a $13 profit, that's $26. And this one has a $10 profit times 6 is $60. So we get the right answer here. I don't think it'll do anything this too complicated on the test, but you want to be making sure that you're aware of how to do it. So make sure you have this file ready and open on your computer. So when you're like, oh my gosh, how do we do that? Oh, I just open up my file and it's already open on my computer. I don't have to wait for it to open. I have to download it from OneDrive, Google Drive, whatever. So yeah.
What's the intuition on that? You do everything times again.
So what it's actually doing is, so it does this whole formula by itself, right? And it gives us 143.50, like if we just left that there. But what it's doing is it's timesing each column by itself. So where I3, so it's going to go down this whole entire row, and it's going to say where it's greater than 15, true or false. A true is equal to 1, and a false is equal to 0. So anything times 0 is going to be false, and it's not going to sum it. And then it's going to go to the next row and say, is this $15? True. Okay, we'll do this whole formula. We'll times it together. We'll add it together. Okay. Oops. And I just clicked off that, and it changed my answer because I didn't do Control-Shift-Enter. Okay, what is the total cost for amounts where we sold exactly 2 items? So we're going to go like this. Sum. I always do sum. Total cost of this times this times where this is equal to 2. $23. So that means we've got 14 plus 9 is equal to 23. Did everyone figure out how to do that? Any questions about arrays?
So it's going to take only whatever is equal to that formula.
Exactly, because we're doing everything times itself. Like it's going to go down each one of those columns and it's going to say, is this equal to 2 in this first thing? And then it's going to sum each line individually. So, okay. Circular references, my favorite. Just kidding. This is where I always have issues when I teach this, but I'm hoping that you guys will be kind and we'll get this right the first time. Okay, so using circular references, solve the following equation. X equals x plus 2 divided by x. Okay, one caveat. First of all, this already knows that there's some sort of circular references going on. So we first have to turn off circular references. So we have to go to File on our computer. I'm going to click on Options. We're going to click on Formulas, and I want to say Enable Iterative Calculations. Okay. Click OK. Close that. So the thing is, we want to replace x with the cell that we're actually in. Okay. So first I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to say G2, because we want this equal to G2, right? G2 is equal to G2 plus 2 divided by G2. Okay. Get it divided by 0, because Excel is going to start trying to throw in a formula here, and it throws in a 0, and it goes divided by 0, doesn't work, don't even think about working. We can trick Excel by, I'm going to put an if statement in here, and I'm going to say if G2 equals 0, then, let's see, how do I want to do this? Then 1, else G2 is equal to this. So we don't care. The problem with this is we don't want G2 to ever be equal to 0. But right now it's like it doesn't exist as anything because we're just doing an iterative calculation against itself to try and apply this. This could be this number here. And you'll notice, wow, it gave us the right number because it's saying this can never equal 0. Okay. So we're saying if G2 is equal to 0, so it's saying if myself is equal to 0, it's actually equal to 1. And then Excel does an iterative calculation and says, okay, I'm going to throw in 1 here and see if this is the right answer. And it's going to keep doing step calculations until it gets it correct. This is actually not the correct answer. This is Excel's guess, because if you remember in our iterative calculations, we said 100 times. So you can actually click on Calculate Now here or hit F9. And if you hit that, it's going to keep recalculating. It's going to keep doing all these complex formulas, which are called step algorithms. And it's going to get closer and closer and closer till it actually gets to the right answer. And eventually, if you'll notice, it actually gets to 2, which is the correct answer. Does anyone have any questions on that? Yeah.
I think I have a different version, but I don't know how to turn off circular referencing.
On a Mac, I remember once, if you do Command, comma, and you go to calculation, use iterative calculations. Do you have this thing? Just FYI, you should be able to do this test with a Mac, no problems.
Cool.
I probably wouldn't recommend it because then like it's hard to find information on it, but you can if you want, and I have known plenty of people to do it. Okay, so this one is solver. So the
do that calculate. Like when we solve it, it gives never do we need to calculate.
No.
Until it,
all Dr. Maservi is gonna what he's gonna do is he's gonna run this like a few times, and I bet you anything he's just gonna round your answer and it should be right. But it'll be more complex, something that won't be 2, it'll be like 2.6 or something, you know. So like he'll be like, if it's between, you know, within 0.05 or something, he'll round your numbers. That's usually what he does, but you can hit refresh a few times just to make sure, because then you'll be like, okay, 2 plus 2 divided by 2 should equal itself, right? So if I plug in 2 plus 2 is 4, divided by 2 is 2, should equal 2, right? Do your little x equals problem just to double check the answer. Okay. Solver. Hopefully we get this answer correct. So we want to make sure that everybody has solver on your machine. You'll want to make sure you go to data and does everyone have solver? Because I don't have it right now. So first we're going to want to go to File, Options, Add-ins, and I'm going to click Go right here on Excel add-ins. I'm going to click Solver add-in. We'll click OK. And you'll notice now I have the solver. Does anyone have solver? Okay. It's a good thing I showed someone to do this the other day. Yours will be where is this, right? Excel add-ins. Solver.
So you don't, is it?
Okay.
Where's that?
Put a number into it.
Also, once you turn it on once, it should be there. Okay.
Because it thinks it's zero, if it's zero, it won't work at all. So.
Okay, so we're going to do solver. So first of all, we want to set our objective. So make sure that this is what you do first. Your objective needs to be what you're trying to maximize. So in this problem, we're maximizing the profit, right? So we're going to click on profit here, and we want it to be the max. We don't want it to be the min. It might say min, okay? Just keep an eye on that. We might want to minimize our costs. Like you've got to kind of keep an eye. We're going to see what are the things that we can actually change. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I want to change. So I use the control tilde and see which things are formulas. These are things that should not change, right? Because those are calculations that are happening. But we notice that bags produced, that looks like something we can change, right? So that's probably going to be our changing our variable cells. So let's highlight those. And then we have a few constraints. So I'm going to hit, one other thing. Let's click on options first. Make sure you don't have ignore integer constraints checked. Because if you do that, it'll do partial numbers. And it used to be the default. Looks like it's fixed because I have a new version of Excel on my computer. So they fixed that problem. So let's click OK. Let's click add. So first of all, we want to add some references. So we can't use more labor than we have available, right? Okay. You can do it in either direction. Just make sure you change your symbols. Okay. Let's add that. We can't. So we need to produce it. We need to produce what the at least meet demand, right? Okay. So we need to be equal to or greater than our demand. And is there anything else? Oh, one other thing. We want to make sure that we produce bags in integers. Is there anything else? Let's click OK. And let's hit solve. Let the magic happen. Hopefully this works out. I'm going to turn off my functions. 753.25. Did anyone get something different? Okay. That's what I was expecting. 753.25. Circular references and solver. Does anyone have any questions about solver or circular references?
Is it possible that on one of these we could get a different answer from you guys? That some solvers, some scenarios might be different.
It's possible, but it's probably unlikely. The way that we'll have them set up, they won't be like if we allowed partial numbers here, like if these weren't integer constraints, we probably would have some fluctuation here in the class, basically because you can use different types of algorithms to do these like calculations. So you can do GRG nonlinear, simplex, LX, and evolutionary, but the kind of making everything whole numbers, that kind of locks everyone down to be, it's going to go for whole numbers only. So it doesn't really have a lot of options to step through. Okay. Okay, pivot tables. So, okay, so first of all, we have a pivot table data. Pivot table data is on another sheet. It may have you import a file. Just make sure you know how to do that. I think we showed how to do that in class. Like they may give you an access file. If that's the case, just keep an eye on that. If you're doing it on your Mac, let me know. I'll send you the file in text format. Because usually we have both formats available just to like eliminate problems. Okay, so let's quickly do this. So pivot table data. So I'm going to make multiple pivot tables unless on the test it says like you must have one pivot table. I like to do it multiple times because say I run out of time or I want to go back and check my answers, but I've rechanged all my pivot tables. Well, it's hard to go back and do your work. So I like to just make multiple pivot tables. So I'm going to go to my data here. I'm going to do insert pivot table, and you'll notice it selects the data. Let's put it back on our normal sheet so we can see what we're working on. That's where we want to drop it. So it's going to go right there. So it says how many basketballs were sold in the month of October. Okay, I'm going to make this smaller. So first of all, I'm going to add the sales date and the item. And I'm going to put the item again. Oops, no, wait. Guess it doesn't really matter because they only do one item at a time. I mean, this is right now doing the sum. I could do any of the values here, but we're going to do count. So I could just leave it like this. How many basketballs were sold in the month of October? Basketball, October, 4. Did anyone get a different answer? Okay. If I click on this pivot table and do Control A, I can do Control C, and I can paste it down here, and now I have a new pivot table that's using the same data. So I don't have to lose my data here. And what I can even do here is to make it smaller. And like, let's only show the basketballs. All right. Okay. There we go. Now it fits better. Let's move this guy up here. Okay. I'm going to clear my pivot table by just unclicking all these. Okay. So this next question is, which salesman had the lowest percent of sales for November? So if I put their amount here, and I want to do this by sales rep, we also need to have the date. So let's put the date here. You can put it on the column or whatever. We're only looking at September. So I'm going to click on September 1st. Then I can click on these column labels. September. And then if we look at percent of sales, then I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to say show values as percent of the row total, or excuse me, the column total. And we're going to look, and this is going to sum up to 100. Okay. You might want to make sure that you're doing the correct percentages. So which salesman had the lowest percentage sales for September? Well, it's hard for me to tell because I just see there's a lot of numbers here. So I like to click on here and I click data and I click sort Z to A. And now I can see down at the bottom, it's Philip. So I'm just going to type Philip's name here. What was his percentage? Well, I just want to make sure. I thought it was 2.13, but it's actually like 2 point blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to copy this here. I'm going to paste what? Values. There you go. And now it puts all that gobbledygook behind. Okay, for salesmen who use both approaches, which was more effective? Wow, I have no idea what that's talking about. But if I look at this data, oh, I want to keep this here. I'm going to copy this again, just so we have it as a reference. Hang on. Let's see. Just throw that over there. Okay, let's take off the months here. Oh, goodness. Fine, fine. I've caused a problem. Okay, for who used both approaches, which was more effective? So I know I'm going to need my salesman. So let's click on sales rep. And I don't care about the sales date, but we want to see a sales approach. But we actually want in columns, so we want to see who's using number 1 and number 2. Let's put their amounts in here. So it shows which ones are using both, right? So we know that it's going to be out of Bob, Jeff, Jenny, Matt, or Philip. Okay. So I'm just going to take out Dave, Jane, Sean, and Tim. So I don't even have to look at them anymore. Okay. Now I want to look at who has the highest total, right? Because these are all the people who are using both approaches. And it looks like it's Jeff at 3508. Oh. Who's both approaches? Which one is more effective? What do you think? Number 1 or number 2? Sales approach 2. Oh, that's cute. There might be drop downs on the exam. So just kind of keep your eyes open for that. Okay. Thankfully, Skylar and I went over this one earlier today. I'm going to change this to shirts instead of shoes because I just think this is kind of not a very good example. Because it's like they're all the same percentage. is going to throw you all off if you've done this before. So let's, goodness sakes. Okay, come on. Control A, Control C. Just going to hide these. Not work as smoothly as I thought. Hide. Okay, put that there. Clear all these guys out. So now I have a fresh pivot table. Okay, so I'm only looking at shirts for these different salesmen. So we want to put their amount here, the sales rep. We also need to know the date because we're going to be looking at November. And we want to look at the item. Let's go like this. And right now we're filtering on just basketballs. So let's change to shirts. Okay. And we're wanting to know for shirts, what were the percent of shirt sales for the following salesmen in November based off of the sale amount. Okay. So we're only looking at November and we want to right click on here. Summarize values as percent of, what do you guys think? Parent column total or column total? I'd probably check both of them because I would never know, right? Well, first of all, we'll notice that on shirts here, this doesn't look like it's doing the right thing for us. This is going based off of for each person over the month. So that wasn't the right choice, right? Let's go back here. Let's try parent row total. If we sum all these up, they equal 100%. But what if I want to know the percent of total sales? Right? This clearly isn't the percent of total sales, right? But this question is just looking at this, right? So we can, for Bob, we can just say it's, let's do Control C here. Let's answer this question. Matt, C, Tim, 13.79. Oh my goodness. Paste. And Jane, C. Okay. So one thing, if I want to do percent of total sales, my computer is gone rogue. Okay. Let's right click. If we do summarize values as percent of the column total, you'll notice that this also doesn't change. So we want to make so we can add all of these back in, and you notice that this does each product based off of the total percentage. But if I want to do each one individually, that's off of the parent. So the parent is this column that's right above it. So if I change this back to parent, then you notice each section, I did this wrong again. Parent row. You notice that each one of these sections is going to actually equal up to 100%. So if they made sales, they're going to equal up to 100. Okay. Which location has the highest customer satisfaction? Okay, let's go here. Control A, Control C. Let's put it back here. Let's clear our pivot table. Okay, we want to look at location, service satisfaction. Oops, and I probably just want to look at the average, right? I just want to look at who has the highest customer satisfaction. Look at the average. These are all so close that I have a hard time telling. I'll sort them A to Z so I can tell which one's the top, which one's the bottom. And it looks like Provo has the highest customer satisfaction. Which items sell the least in that location based off of quantity? So sometimes we may ask a question that's based off of another question. So hopefully you get the first one right, so you get both of them right. There won't be many questions like that, and these will both be worth like 2 points total. They'll be like one question. Which items sell the least in that location based off of quantity? So if I want to just add an item here, I could just go like this. I could say, well, why don't I just give me the item? And I only care about Provo, right? So let's click on the city. Then we'll click on this drop down. I only care about Provo. And we're looking at items. So we want to know which items sell the least. So we have count of item. We want to sort the data A to Z. And it looks like we have jacket. It says who sold that item? Oh, well, I can quickly add the sales rep on here, right? And we notice that Sean sold that jacket, or since it's a pivot table, we can just click on this jacket right here, double click, and we can notice this jacket was sold on 11/5 for $30 by Sean. We can also just quickly look at that, and it adds another sheet down here for us. Dr. Maservi's not going to know if you do that, so just do whatever is easiest for you. And this question is, how many items did Philip sell between October 8th and November 1st? Let's highlight all of this. Okay, this one's going to be a huge mess, I'm sure. Let's put it over here. Let's clear all these out. So we know we're going to need, so they want to know how many items. So we want to do count by the sales rep. And then we're going to specify some date, right? So who was it, Philip? So click on Philip. And what's the dates? Between October 8th and November 1. So I'm going to click on the date here. And I'm going to click date filters, custom filter. Actually, that's not a great way to do
Or
that.
head between.
Yeah, thank you. Date filters between, that's what I want. So what was it, October 8th? Oh, let's just click on the calendar, 'cause that's, huh? So if you click on one of these dates first, and then you click on the date, you should have date filter and then a between. You guys all get that? And then we'll do between, I think it was October 8th, right? What year is the question?
2005.
Were these 2005? Yeah, okay. Okay, let's do date filters between October 8th, 2005 and November 1, right? I assume this will work. Click OK. And it looks like we got 5. Does everyone get 5 items? You could manually just click on all the dates if you really wanted to. So just keep that in mind. You could just, if you're worried about it, you can expand this and just click on these dates like this and do this little filter, and you could click on each one of the dates that are actually applicable to make sure you have the right date. And that concludes the midterm review. I don't even know if I recorded this. Oh, looks like I did.